So I know I haven't made a TCG opening in a little while, and well, this is the video to explain why. So for those of you that have been following me ever since I started, or at least checked out the channel when I originally started posting content, most of it was centered around various TCGs, most commonly Pokemon, and then later on we did expand into some Yu-Gi-Oh! And the whole reason I even started making videos on YouTube was more or less just kind of a fun way to record my hobbies and all that. And the easiest one to start with was actually just kind of doing Pokemon openings. It's never been something that, like I said, is a career goal or anything like that. Honestly, just kind of something fun to do, a way to be able to share it and that with some of my friends who we all collect cards and that, and not always able to be around each other all of the time, so kind of a nice fun way in that to allow them to see stuff that I'm opening and, you know, just kind of share it with other people as well. Wherever it went from there, it went. Of course, my main idea was always, if I ever got to a point that, you know, I could include other hobbies in, which, judging by the background video here, since been able to do, but kind of work in some of my other hobbies as I've been able to in that. But lately, really haven't been doing a whole lot on the TCG end and that, and kind of wanted to make a video and give you a little bit of an explanation as to why. Now, I do also want to say that no, I'm not done with, you know, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, all that sort of stuff. Still enjoy it, still a massive fan of it, but just wanted to kind of explain why there hasn't really been any of that content on here. So I think the easiest one to explain is actually going to be the last TCG opening that we did, and that was Warhammer Age of Sigmar. I did a recording of the initial set. I did have a recording of the follow-up set from there. However, there was kind of an issue when I was trying to upload it, and unfortunately it looks like something might have went wrong whenever I was recording it, so just kind of got rid of it altogether. Ultimately, I wasn't really too upset with it because that was more of an opening that, I'll be honest, kind of selfish. It was more for me than anything. As you can tell by the gameplay in the background, I am a big Warhammer fan, and so being able to see the fantasy side of it, I thought was really interesting. I enjoyed the artwork, but I also understand why it was a card game that never really took off and has since kind of found life more on the digital end. There is a third set that's out there. If I ever find it, you know, that would probably just be something I would open for myself and then just kind of keep away in my little personal collection. In terms of Yu-Gi-Oh, though, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't have anything bad to say about it. Actually, the main reason I really haven't done any Yu-Gi-Oh stuff is just because I have been looking around at some of the different boxes that they have coming out, stuff that's due to be released soon and that, and ultimately I'm just kind of in a spot where I'm comfortable with waiting for the products to release. I did a lot of legendary openings, some retro pack openings, and don't get me wrong, I love them, but ultimately for a lot of it and that, you know, I was kind of going after cards that I wanted when I was a kid, and I've kind of been able to collect a lot of them. So in terms of Yu-Gi-Oh, like, I feel like I have the stuff that I mostly want, and I'm just kind of waiting for sets that come out that pique my interest. I have, like I said, nothing bad to say about it. I know there's actually a set that was just released that'll be picking up, and I think there's even another set due at some point in the very near future as well that I'll probably pick up as well. And those probably will get uploaded because a lot of people still really like Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm very excited for the set. Maze of the Master, if I'm correct in remembering off the top of my head. But yeah, so no ill feelings towards Yu-Gi-Oh! Whatsoever in that. It's just kind of been like, I have most of the stuff that I've been looking for, and just kind of figured I'd rather wait and spend my money on stuff that, you know, I'm going to get further enjoyment out of. Don't get me wrong, I do love opening up the old stuff and all that, but when you already have a lot of the stuff that you were looking for, sure, getting repeats, it's always nice, but it does kind of get dull after a little while, and I just didn't want it to get dull for me. I didn't want to get burnt out on it, so I just figured, hey, we'll kind of shelve this, and then, you know, as stuff comes out that I like, we'll go back to it and probably do videos on it. And like I said, that is going to be something that's coming up in the near future. Now, the main one, and one that I really haven't uploaded in a long time, has been Pokemon. And I'm just going to say, I still do consider myself a big Pokemon fan, but at this point, I'm really checked out of the TCG for it. Not because I think the cards are bad, anything like that, or that I've lost interest in the hobby. At this point, it's not something that's, you know, a secret anymore, but ultimately the TCG is just not in a really, really good spot, and I just don't feel that, honestly, it's worth my time and effort to partake in something that is just in an absolute shithole. And unfortunately, I personally kind of feel that it's at the point where the best way to see the change that I want is going to be to vote with my wallet. And that means that, yeah, I'll probably miss out on some really cool stuff, but just not happy with where it's at. So let me just preface with, this is not the first time that Pokemon has been in this situation. Right after COVID, there was a huge spike in its popularity. You know, there have been plenty of videos done on as to why that's happened. You know, everybody was kind of locked inside, didn't really have access to other things. People were also getting stimulus checks, so everybody had a lot of extra income, just kind of stuff like that. And everybody was looking for something to do, myself included. My main hobby before that was, I actually really enjoy firearms, and yeah, whenever all that fun stuff hit and that, I just kind of remember everybody was kind of preparing for like World War III and all that. So my shooting hobby became crazy expensive, and I just kind of felt like, hey, I need something fun to do, and kind of took a shot because I recognized, I think the set was actually Shining Legends. I've talked about it before. Saw a Shining Legends box, picked it up, and just kind of fell in love with the card game all over again. And, you know, it was kind of a rough time to get into it. Prices were very, very high and all that. But it was something that did eventually fizzle out. You know, as stuff started to open back up, life started, you know, becoming more demanding on everybody. Like, hey, everybody started having to pay their bills again. You know, you didn't have all this extra money just lying around. People stopped buying stuff and all that, and that ultimately made it better for me to kind of get back into by just making sure that, you know, hey, I was budgeting correctly, stuff like that. And I was able to really collect stuff for quite a few years without issue. I mean, I think up until really the Eevee set, I mean, at this point, like, I've just kind of given up on purchasing it. Prismatic Evolution, that's what it is. I haven't bought anything since that's dropped. And the main reason is we've once again kind of hit that point where there's another huge Pokemon spike, and like before, stuff is pricey. However, it's just gotten to the to the point where I think it's actually kind of surpassed a lot of the craziness that we saw during COVID. And, you know, I'm not going to lie, there are times where, looking back on some of my purchases during COVID, probably not the smartest financially, but hey, like I said, I had given up one of my other hobbies at the time, so I did have the extra cash. Yes, things were occasionally priced a little bit higher, but not nearly to the point that they are now, which is kind of my topic of discussion here. So, and really the main reason that you haven't seen a whole lot of stuff from that end, because normally, you know, if there wasn't a Yu-Gi-Oh set that was coming out, I'd always be picking up Pokemon stuff. But I'm going to be honest, you know, the past couple of times I've gone into stores, there has been fuck all. I mean, I couldn't even tell you the last time I got to see an actual pack available. Or, no, I shouldn't say that, because I have got to see them available, but I haven't seen one that's been remotely at MSRP. So let me back up a little bit, because when Scarlet and Violet came out, one of the kind of bigger controversies, and by bigger controversies I just mean it kind of ruffled a couple people's feathers, but it wasn't anything too major, was we did see the base price of a traditional pack of cards increase. I think it went from maybe like right around $3 to closer to $4. I don't think it was a full dollar increase, but I think it was just enough to kind of bump it with tax and stuff like that, you know, give it that nice little bump, which personally I did not mind at the time, because a lot of the booster boxes that I was buying anyways, they stayed roughly the same price. Elite trainer boxes were also essentially the same price, and I was never a person to really just buy individual packs, so all the products I was personally buying weren't really affected by it all that much, if at all. But then once Prismatic Evolutions came out, and honestly, I'm going to back up, and I'm going to really say it kind of started with Surging Sparks. But once Surging Sparks kind of popped its head out, that's when things started to kind of go downhill. So, for those of you that don't know, the way Pokemon works is there is, I don't want to call it the OCG, but the Japanese sets are released typically like 1 to maybe 2 months ahead of the English stuff and that. And a lot of times, by paying attention to the Japanese market, you can kind of tell how successful the English set is going to be, because a lot of times the English stuff will combine multiple sets from the Japanese stuff and that into like one big set. And of course, it was really no surprise in that a set featuring, you know, some pretty cool artwork for Pikachu, especially being the series mascot and all that. Pokemon was going to have a hit on their hands, and they definitely did. And I'll be honest with you, as soon as Surging Sparks dropped, I think, like, I know I was able to open up a Japanese booster box, which, not gonna lie, at the time that I bought it, it was probably going for about $15 to $20 more than you know, a standard booster box at that time was going for. And when it finally came out in English, I was only able to get, I think, like an ETB at the time, and that was it. Everything else had been sold out. And every time since that I went out to try and find, you know, any sort of Surging Sparks products, they were bought out or they had been marked up in price to a point where I was like, I'm not going to pay for something that, you know, like, I'm not going to pay $65-$70 for something that was $50 a week ago. Like, eventually there's going to be more stuff out. I'm not gonna fall for it this time around. I'm just gonna be patient. I'm gonna get my money's worth, especially because for me personally, I don't really give a fuck about that little yellow mouse. Get it? It's the series mascot, and don't get me wrong, I understand why it is. I think it's Pikachu's absolutely iconic for a reason. For me personally, I've just never really been a Pikachu fan. Shout out Raichu, doesn't get the freaking attention and love that it deserves. But, you know, anytime that they drop a Pikachu product, it's always really, really hot, and prices go up. Immediately following that, though, we got Prismatic Evolutions, which featured another very, very popular entry from the Pokemon series, that being Eevee and all 8 of its evolutions. Which, again, I'm not crazy on Eevee and all that, but there were some, you know, I do like some of the evolutions like Sylveon and Espeon and Umbreon. Those have kind of always been my personal 3 favorites. I did grow up with the original trio in that, but I do think they were surpassed with Johto, and then Sylveon was a fantastic addition as well. And almost from the jump in that, I saw that original booster box in Japanese shoot up to right around $150. Keep in mind, most of the time these Japanese boxes, they're going for about $50 to $65. Sometimes it just depends if there's like a big hit card in it. Clayburst was one that I remembered. It was kind of a combination of the second set. Paldea Evolve, that's what it was. I do know that box had hit like around $80, all because it had, truthfully, it was all because there was like a waifu card in it, and that was really it. Yeah, almost immediately I'd seen the Japanese stuff shoot up tremendously. And the other thing that I had noticed as well was there was a lot of people really hyping that setup. Again, totally understand Eevee is a fan favorite Pokemon. Definitely knew that was going to happen. But then I started seeing all the updates that essentially all the pre-order product had completely disappeared. And even when, I was out with some friends and that, and they were talking to a lot of the local game stores, a lot of stores were already hinting it. They knew that this set was going to be massive, and even on their end, they were going to be marking stuff up. Now, let me just kind of preface with, I totally understand that for some of these smaller mom and pop stores, they don't have, the same luxuries as like Walmart or some of those big box stores and that, where, hey, they're going to be able to cover their bills no problem each month and that, regardless of if the new Pokemon set's a hit or not. They're not going to be in any sort of problems. So I totally get that sometimes, hey, their prices are going to be a little bit higher, and I can usually respect that, especially too if they do have to buy from, maybe somewhere from other than a distributor where they're already paying a little bit of a marked up price. Again, totally understand that, hey, that product's probably going to have to be marked up just because it is a business at the end of the day. The goal is to make money. That's how you're going to pay your employees and, be able to put food on everybody's tables. Totally get it. However, to me, it was the extent in which some of these markups had been going on. So, a couple of the stores, I knew that they do get their stuff from distributors, or they're not really paying top dollar for it. They are getting a little bit of a discounted price. And the markups were tremendous. I mean, it was at a point in that where essentially if you wanted just an ETB of Prismatic Evolution, you're probably going to pay $85, $90. I want you to keep in mind that that is essentially $30, $35 on average more than what the MSRP of it was going to be. Like if you walked into Walmart, you're getting that shit for $50. You go to some of these other stores who probably getting from similar price distributors, you are already paying, essentially almost half of that booster box on top of it, or yeah, that ETB on top of it. Which, again, to me, I understand that, hey, if these places are buying from spots where they are marking it up, I know there's going to be an even further markup on it just because stores got to make a profit. But it was also just kind of the language that some of these stores were kind of using in that, where they knew this was their time to just rake in the cash. Now, personally, if I would have seen, that box at that level, I might have had some temptation to buy it. I'm just going to be completely honest in that. But on the day of release, one of the first things that I started to see from people who, were getting products early was the hit rates compared to that particular set compared to other sets released around the same time, and that was absolutely abysmal. So for starters, you have a very hyped up product that was initially kind of only going to be a limited release, and because pull rates were bad, that meant that a lot of the big hits in there were going for exorbitant amounts of money, which immediately drew in the scalpers. So if you were someone who was able to find the product on the day that it launched, you're probably extremely lucky. And if you weren't able to find it at this point, you're kind of at the mercy of scalpers. Let's just be honest about it and that. And you're going to be paying some fucking stupid prices. I'm sorry. Again, I am not here to tell anyone what to do with their money, because I get it. There are people that play the card game you know, there are parents out there that are trying to get this stuff for their kids, or hey, maybe it's just, maybe that's your one hobby. Truthfully, I ain't mad at you if you bought it. I understand. And I truthfully think that you guys are really the victims in all this. Just like a lot of us kind of are, unfortunately. But just the amount that I've seen some of these products go for online has been absolutely fucking ridiculous. I get it. It's a supply and demand thing, but I think unfortunately it's just been catering a little too fucking hard to the scalping crowd on that. And I might be a little bit lenient if it wasn't for the fact that we already saw this coming, because all the shit in Japan drops way before any of the English stuff. So we knew what was going to happen. There was no surprise. And yet, you know, whenever the Pokemon Company released this stuff and they find out that there's a scalping problem, they just want to sit there and play that surprise Pikachu face, which to me was just unfucking acceptable. Because, truthfully, it ruins the hobby for people, and I'm not going to be surprised if there are a fair bit of people that are going to check out if things don't get fixed. Just being honest in that. Really hope it doesn't come to it, because I do love that franchise. I have a lot of great memories from it. I still really enjoy the video games, but I'm just not really happy. Now, Pokemon did come out and say that, hey, we understand that there's a bad situation going on. We're going to be reprinting stuff to make it more accessible for everyone. And the only thing I can really say to that is, when? Because to me, it seems like their idea is, you know, hey, we'll reprint more. We're just not going to print a whole fucking lot of it. And again, all it's going to do is the people that, you know, don't have a job or are doing this to scalp it and make money, that's just going to encourage them to once again be the first fucking people in line in that, so they can buy it all up, because they know you're not going to get another drop in that in a hot while, and that's just going to keep prices inflated. Now we've got this latest set that's come out, and we're still going through the same issue in that. I mean, I had one of my cousins shoot me a text the other day, and this is just how, like, how fucking retarded it's got at this point. But the fact that if you want a sealed booster box, that there was a place out there that was charging you around $65 more just if you wanted your booster box sealed. Now, if you wanted a regular booster box that was unsealed, which, of course, with it being unsealed, you don't know really if it's been fucked with at all. There's no way to guarantee any of that stuff. You're still paying about $35 on top of that. But if you wanted a sealed booster box, you were now hitting over $200 for that. To me, it's just stupid. Once again, don't feel that Pokemon has done enough for it. Again, we saw how this set performed in Japan. There should have been no question that we were going to have the exact same results all over again. And of course, scalping is still a big thing. Hate to say it, but I don't think that, you know, we're anywhere near out of the woods with it. But it's just to the point now where even Pokemon themselves in that have increased the prices of their base stuff. Which, if they're increasing the base prices of their stuff, that just means that, you know, there's going to be further added on cost. Because now remember, some of these honest mom and pop shops that are already buying from even higher marked up prices, they're going to have to charge even more. And because they're going to charge even more in that, when the scalpers buy up that stuff, what are they going to do? They're just going to charge even more. I think I saw a booster box for Journey Together on Amazon, pretty consistently selling for like over $300. Like, that seemed to honestly be one of the more fair prices, which is just so fucked to even say it. Because, like, truthfully, like I said, you know, this is a franchise that's built towards kids. What kind of parent is going to want to sit there, especially with, like, how rough shit is today and that, say, hey, I got, you know, $300 that I can blow on, you know, this booster box for my kid here. Like, hey, maybe your kid did something, you know, fantastic. They busted their ass at school or whatever, or they accomplished something. You want to give them a reward. Well, that's out of the way now, and that. Even then, you know, ETBs, they're just as bad. Like, you know, even just for like 8 to 9 packs and that, the amount of money that you have to pay for it is just so ridiculous. And To me, it all comes back to the fact that, you know what, Pokemon I don't feel is doing enough on their end to address it. I think they're just kind of walking away in that with the fact that they know they're on a little bit of a gold mine right now, and they're just raking in that money. And for them to increase the prices, not do enough to make sure that, you know, it can stay affordable for the fans in that, I'm not going to buy it. I know I've ranted about all this shit before, but like I said, I'm not happy with it. And I'm not here to tell you what you can and can't do with your money. You work hard for that shit. You can spend it however you want. Just me personally, though, like I said, during COVID, look, I made some purchase decisions back then that weren't, you know, maybe the smartest at the time. And I learned from it. I see that the market's in that spot again. And unfortunately, I just don't see anything coming to an immediate change. And until I do that, I'm just going to be honest with you guys. I'm not going to be doing any Pokemon openings. I want to. Like I said, I still love the franchise and that. I think it's super fun. It's got a lot of really cool stuff out there. But at the same time, I feel that if I pay my money towards it, I'm only further encouraging that shit. But I don't think it's all doom and gloom, because I think there is a lot of people out there that are raising awareness about this issue. I've seen a lot more people just recording people that are taking advantage of the whole pricing situation and everything like that. And I think hopefully with enough bad publicity and maybe enough people kind of leaving the franchise behind in that, maybe if we hit the Pokemon Company in their wallets, they'll pay attention. But all that being said and done, am I completely out of the TCG stuff? No. At least when it comes to something like Yu-Gi-Oh! That, I'm still all in for it. Like I said, there's been some products that have recently released or are going to be releasing. I am going to be picking them up, and you're probably going to be seeing them on the old YouTube channel at some point. But when it comes to Pokemon, until I feel that they've sufficiently addressed the situation, and not even just address it for this time, but I want to hear steps that they're going to take to not say that this never happens again, because, hey, there's always going to be shit that's out of their control, but at least some sort of initiative in that to where if this does happen again, let's try and minimize it. But until I see that, I'm out with it. I'll still get the games. I'll support it on that end because Legends ZA is looking really, really good. I want to encourage them to continue to make those positive strides, but until I see it with the TCG, I'm out. I'm out for this video as well, but if you did make it this far,